On today's episode, I'm going to break down the Pacers' loss to the New York Knicks last night. I'm going to talk about what went right, what went wrong, what really cost us this game, and then I'm going to dive into which players I thought played the best last night and just highlight a few players. And then, of course, I'm going to talk about Ivica Zubac. And now that this was like his first full game with the team, he played about 30 minutes. We got to see a lot, so I'm going to break down the good and bad that I saw, but just want to talk about his game last night as well. All coming up next on the Pacer Pulse podcast. What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome to the Pacer Pulse podcast, the heartbeat of Indiana basketball. I'm your host, Sean Trader. And guys, I'm going to break down the Knicks and Pacers game last night. The Pacers lost 92 to 101. Of course, it was the outcome we were wanting. But anytime you're playing the Knicks, you got to get up for that. I know the fans always have a great time watching that game, and it was a fun game to watch. I would say it was probably the most fun I had watching a game for the past couple months, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, I could be missing a game in there somewhere, but it was actually an exciting game, and it was pretty competitive throughout the whole game. I mean, the Knicks, they were missing Josh Hart and Karl Towns. So they started Mitchell Robinson, who just had like a monster game rebounding-wise. And then the Pacers, of course, we were missing Siakam, but Nesmith played, Nembhard played, Zubac played. And then we were missing, I can't remember who else. I'm probably having somebody slip my mind, but Siakam was really the main guy that was missing last night, which I'll be curious to see once he actually gets on the court and seeing him next to Zubac as well. But I want to cover what really cost the Pacers this loss, guys. Like, what really cost us to lose this game, because we were pretty much leading going into the fourth quarter. If it wasn't for Jordan Clarkson hitting a three-point shot at the end of the third quarter, we would have been up by like a point or two going into the fourth. So it was pretty neck and neck throughout this game. And going into the fourth, the offense just kind of collapsed, guys. We got outscored 18 to 25, and we really didn't shoot well this entire game. I mean, we shot 39% from the field, 26% from three. But the Knicks didn't shoot great either. They shot 42% from the field, 29% from three. So yes, it really came down to just kind of who made more shots at the end of this game, to be quite honest. And I thought the defense was really good on both sides of the floor. I mean, the Knicks were playing good defense. We were playing good defense. And I think that you really saw Zubac's impact in that front. But we really rebounded the ball pretty well, like as a team. I mean, we rebounded 46 rebounds as a team to the Knicks 53. So that was pretty even. I mean, we each had about even steals. We had 6, they had 4. Then turnover-wise, we took good care of the ball. We only had 11 turnovers, and they had 12. But points off turnovers, maybe this is where you could say the Knicks really killed us. They had 14 points off turnovers. We only had 4. So we didn't really maximize on those turnovers that we forced for the Knicks. And maybe that was like the marginal thing that really cost us this game, because outside of that, we were pretty even. Like I said, I mean, we even had more bench points than them. We had 35 to their 15. So you could probably even that out to like all the points they got off points off turnovers for our bench really stepping up in this game. And then the points in the paint were pretty even. We had 38, they had 46. But the Knicks, their largest lead in this game was 15. So the fact that we kind of got it back within striking distance there, especially going into the fourth, really mattered a lot, because it kind of just showed you kind of that old Pacer spirit where we climbed back into this game and really fought back. And that's saying a lot, I think, too, because we're trying to incorporate Zubac into this system, and he was heavily involved tonight, guys. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. But that's why I wanted to go over some of these key stats, because it wasn't really any of those things that cost us this game. You can maybe consider points off turnovers, but really it was just the fact that the Knicks ended up hitting more shots in that fourth quarter than we did, honestly. And I just think that sometimes that's just the way it is in basketball. It's as simple as that. It's not really anything else other than that sometimes. It's just a matter of who's able to put the ball in the hoop towards the end of the game. So it's just, I think that's what really cost us this game, Pacer Nation. So I'm not going to dive too deep into the nuances of that. I do want to get into some players that I thought that really stood out. And I want to start off with Jarace Walker. So he finished the game with 18 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal. He had 2 turnovers, but, you know, that's not terrible for him. He did shoot 6 of 14, so not the best shooting night. And he shot 3 of 9 from 3, so okay, 3 or 4 from the free throw line. But his plus minus was a 0, so he didn't hurt the team. He didn't help the team, I guess, in his minutes. But I just thought he did a lot of great things out there. And I really liked a few plays where Zubac would screen for Walker out on the perimeter, and Walker would just take a good strong drive inside and finish for two. Told that at least once or twice in this game, and we even saw it last game where Zubac got like an offensive rebound and he passed it to a cutting Walker who had a dunk. So I just think that Walker could really benefit playing next to a guy like Zubac who's able to pass the ball and really set great screens for guys to get them open, to get downhill, or to make something happen at least. So I think that's going to really benefit Walker going forward. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, depending on how much Zubac really does play the rest of this season. So that would be something to keep an eye on. But I do think Jarace, he did come in, even if he didn't shoot well, he did have some timely buckets that we really needed, some clutch threes. And I just thought he really impacted the team in a winning way. So that's something that I'm really like wanting to pay attention to. Like I said in one of my last podcasts, it's been probably a couple weeks now, but I was talking about some of the guys that I'm kind of keeping an eye out on for the rest of the season, developmental wise. And Walker was one of those, and the rest was like Kobe Brown and Cam Jones. But Walker was really the number one. I want to see if he can sustain this level of play throughout the rest of the season because, as we all know, Pacer Nation, he had an extremely rough start, but he's really put together a solid 2.5 months, I would say, I guess, since that very rough start to the season. So it's encouraging to see him play to that level. I still have questions if he can fill that sort of scoring role off the bench the same way that like Matherin provided. That is kind of a hole in this team that I'm kind of circling right now. And I'm not saying Jarace ain't capable of that, but I have to see it, Pacer Nation. You know, us fans, it's too, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Too back and forth sometimes. So it's just, we have to see this like sustained play, but I am encouraged from what I've seen from Walker because he is starting to impact the game in other ways outside of just scoring. So if he's not having a great scoring night, at least you can kind of count on him to rebound the ball. He's always going to make some good passes. He had a nice like lob pass inside to Zubac, I'm pretty sure, this game. So it's just, his playmaking is special for a guy his size. And if he can just hone it in and not have as many turnovers, he could be really additive to this team in that regard and just fill in those kind of voids in this offense sometimes when Halliburton's not out there, or like Nembhard, having him next to maybe TJ McConnell, especially off the bench next year, just having multiple playmakers out there. And if he can really turn down those turnovers, it's just going to be interesting for me to see next year, guys, because Walker will be available for restricted free agency after next season. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out in terms of his contract. If we're going to re-sign him, are we going to trade him like we did with Matherin and just maybe get a cheaper piece? Because Walker, and it really depends on our draft pick too, guys. If we end up getting a top 4 pick, that's to be determined. But if we do, it's going to be hard for Walker to get a lot of solid minutes in this rotation, in my opinion. So it's just another conversation for another day, but it's the stuff that comes to my mind. But I just wanted to highlight Walker in this game. I thought he had a pretty solid game, even if he didn't shoot as well. And then I did want to highlight Kobe Brown. He was a +4 in this game. Yes, he didn't shoot it well from 3. He was 0 for 3 from 3. And he was 2 of 7 from the field. But he got to the line 5 times, or he shot 4 or 5 from the free throw line. So he was getting to the free throw line. I thought he played pretty decent defense the entire game. And he was just rebounding out there too. 7 rebounds. I mean, he was the third highest on the team, in rebounding this game. And that's something he's kind of just consistently provided since he's been with the team. Where he's had like maybe a game or two where he's had 1 to 3 rebounds or something like that, but he's consistently getting at least 6+ rebounds almost every game. But he is playing a lot of minutes. I mean, he's not going to play that many minutes if he's even with the team past this season. So it's just encouraging to see that maybe he's kind of proven himself to be somewhat of an NBA player, even if that's not with the Pacers or not. I'm not sure how that's going to shake out, guys. If we don't get our pick this year, maybe we end up keeping him, especially with Furphy now being out for a while. Maybe he can fill in kind of that Furphy spot and he'll be like the 11th or 12th man. I'm not sure. That's to be determined, but I do think that he's at least showing something. I really thought he was going to be nothing when we traded for him, to be quite honest, but to see him being out there, being productive and having some big moments for this team, I mean, playing 30 minutes and he's getting a start, that's no small feat for a guy that really didn't do pretty much anything when he was with the Clippers. So I think we're seeing like a decent amount of skill from him as well. I like that he does keep the ball moving as well. It's not somebody that like the ball just gets stuck in his hands. He's not going to try to self-create too much. He's going to keep it moving. And I think like the fit with him and our system has been pretty seamless, I would say, in terms of that. where he is able to kind of get off the ball pretty quick. So that's just something I'm going to continue to keep an eye on. And I really thought Shepard had like an amazing sequence during this game once. I wanted to highlight that. He had an okay game. He didn't play amazing, but he had an awesome sequence where like he hit a three, then he had this awesome like pass in transition. I forget to who. I'm forgetting it right now. And they had a nice dunk finish, but it was probably one of the best sequences I've seen from Ben Shepard probably in his entire career. So I wanted to really highlight that. And then even I wanted to highlight Nimhard as well. Even though he struggled on offense tonight, that's kind of been his MO this year. He's like the last game, I think it was, he had an awesome like offensive game, right? So this game he comes in, like shoots 3 of 14, 0 of 3 from 3. So just it's so inconsistent with this offense a lot of times. That's where I worry about if we don't have enough offensive creators on this team at times, which maybe I'm wrong and that's not going to be an issue, but I just don't know if he can fully rely on Nimhard, and maybe it doesn't matter as much once Tyrese comes back and we'll have Siakam and Zubac too, and just maybe it lightens the burden, of course, because he has a bigger burden this year. It's just I don't know what kind of role we're going to expect from him next season. Is kind of what I'm saying, but he'll probably just slide into like what his normal role has been, and hopefully he's an improved 3-point shooter. Because this year he has been overall throughout the season about 36%. But even though he had kind of had a rough offensive game last night, I thought he had a lot of good defensive plays. Just got some good like steals a couple times in there, timely defensive stops. Even like was taking some bumps from OG Anunoby once or twice in there and was forcing a miss from him. And OG was really cooking us this game. I think he had like 5 dunks this game against us guys. So just wanted to like point that out with Nimhard. And then, of course, the bench. I thought they played well. I'm really liking what I've seen from Jay Huff in the backup role so far these first 2 games. I mean, he had 9 points, 4 rebounds, a steal and a block off the bench. 3 of 7, 2 of 6 from 3, but like he has a +6 in this game. He just felt like he was very impactful in winning minutes. I just think that we just got to see the wrong side of Jay Huff this year because we've had to rely on him so much. But I'm starting to get more and more encouraged about the idea of him being the backup next year behind Zubac. And I just love that he brings another element. He's still like a lob threat. He can actually like do some things off the dribble, driving to the rim, which has been pretty impressive from him. I didn't think that was something he had in his game, to be quite honest. And then just his 3-point shooting ability. Hopefully it goes up even next year percentage wise. But if he can continue to try to be more of a threat, and then just the rim protection he brings as well, I just think for the type of contract he is on, I think he's going to be a very solid backup big to Zubac next year. So I really liked what I've seen these first couple games, and then Obi Toppin playing well. I know I'm pretty much highlighting just about every player on this team, but I thought a lot of guys played well last night, guys. So it's just that's why I'm kind of covering all of them because not really anybody played bad to the extent where it was just egregious, where you're just like, why are they out there? Everybody kind of contributed to this game and to us even being this close. Yeah, we only scored 92 points, but we held the Knicks to 101. So our defense was really stellar, I thought, in this game. And then to end this off, guys, I'm going to go into Ivica Zubac. So Zubac, he played 29 minutes. The first game, when he played against the Suns, he only played about 16 minutes. So we got a bigger sample size in this. So we got to really see a lot of Zubac, what it's going to look like out on the court, on the offensive end and defensive end with this team. And who knows how it will be once like Siakam comes back too. I'm curious to see how we play, offensively in that regard as well. So that's something I want to keep an eye on too. If we ever see Siakam and Zubac on the court at the same time, which I'm expecting we will at some point. But Zubac, he finished the game with 11 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block. He had 2 turnovers, but he was 5 of 9 from the field, 1 of 2 from the free throw line. He was a -12, so wasn't the worst plus minus, but all in all, I guess if you're looking just at the box score, you're like, man, that's not that great because if you're looking at it as like a matchup perspective, Mitchell Robinson had 22 rebounds, but that wasn't the whole picture, guys. So a lot of times too, like a lot of these rebounds, and Mitchell Robinson was just literally falling into his lap at times. Maybe that's just what I saw. Let me know what you think in the comments on YouTube, guys. Like, did he just out-own Zubac in the paint? I don't believe so. I actually just think that a lot of the rebounds just kind of went his way a lot of times. But also, yeah, like he got out-rebounded and Zubac had 8 rebounds. Mitchell Robinson had 22. But the rest of the Knicks, OG had 8. The rest of the guys had like 4 to 5 rebounds. That's kind of like the most he's seen from the rest of the Knicks. And with us, we had Zubac get 8 rebounds. Kobe Brown had 7. Jarace Walker had 9. I mean, Nimhard, excuse me, had 5. Neesmith had 2. I mean, even Huff and Toppin had 4 each, and then TJ and Shepard had 3 each. And this is a point I really want to kind of make. Even if Zubac didn't get just like 15 rebounds or something, it doesn't mean he wasn't making an impact on that end of the court because he is such a big dude. I mean, if you guys have watched him play, of course, so far with the Pacers, he takes up a lot of ground. And it's just guys really struggle to box him out or like keep him away from the rim. And I think that's something that is going to be very underrated. Even if he's not the one that's always getting the rebounds, let's say like games like tonight, still a solid rebounding game, 8 rebounds. But it's the fact that he's keeping other guys out of the way for and allowing like his teammates to be able to come in and get rebounds as well. So I think that's an underrated aspect of his game too that you just don't see in the box score where he's going to be sealing off like multiple guys at a time, creating more rebounding angles for guys on the team that can come in and swoop in for more rebounds because we saw it. It was a pretty solid rebounding effort from everybody in this game tonight. So you would take that any day, and I think that's very encouraging. And imagine if you had Siakam in this mix too, he probably would have had like 7 to 8 as well. And the fact that the rebounding battle was close, even though one of their guys literally had 22 rebounds. So I think that's very encouraging to see. That was something that I really liked and enjoyed. So kind of sticking on like the defensive side of the ball too. Something I was very surprised about. So there's a couple things actually. So with Zubac's defense, I think it's very interesting that on pick and rolls, so far from what I've seen, they have Zubac's really hedging out on pick and rolls. So what I mean by that is, let's say when Zubac's man is screening for like a guard, the guard or whatever guy they're screening for, Zubac's is really like coming out onto the wing and stopping the person that's getting the screen from being able to go around it and go wherever. They have him doing that really instead of just falling into drop coverage. And I think that's very interesting because we're used to kind of seeing drop coverage. I mean, Jay Huff, of course, has had to play that because he's just maybe not as mobile. And Miles has always kind of been more of a drop coverage big and maybe a slight hedge, but Zubats is really hedging out on a lot of these screens. And I think it just shows that the front office really believes in his ability to kind of stay out in front of some guys on the perimeter. And I've actually, like I highlighted against the Suns whenever he got switched on to Devin Booker on one play in the beginning of the game. And he stayed out in front of Booker. And Booker took a tough mid-range shot and he still hit the shot over Zubats. I mean, Booker hit every shot that game, but he made it hard on him. And it's just the fact that he forced him into that kind of tough jumper. I was very surprised. And then I've been very surprised by the way Zubats is able to close out on shooters as well. I mean, he did that multiple times last night where he did on OG Anunoby, I think a couple times, and just different guys where he's had to be the one that like has to go out there on the perimeter, challenge a 3-point shot. And then that's when like a Mitchell Robinson ends up getting another rebound. So you saw that a lot of times too, where that kind of added to their rebounding totals for some of those guys because Zubats would be going out on a 3-point shooter to challenge a 3, and just nobody else on the team was kind of there to like back him up and get that rebound. So it's very interesting to see. And I think that maybe we're going to see more of that. I'm curious to see how that's going to look too when Siakam comes back as well and plays with Zubats. It's just, there's still some times where they do get us in the pick and roll when Zubats is involved. But I do think that he's been more impressive to me with his ability to kind of hedge out on those screens further than I would have ever thought. So I'll be curious to see if they kind of continue to have him do that or if they're going to eventually have him kind of be more of just like a drop coverage type of big and block off the lane a little bit more. I don't know. It's something we're going to have to see gets ironed out because, of course, it's his second game with the team. So it's going to be something that we develop over time and we figure out what's going to be best and what works best for the team. But honestly, I thought it worked great in this game because we held the Knicks to 101 points. So that's no easy feat, especially in the NBA nowadays, guys. We're holding teams to 101 points. That's tough to do. So I'm not saying that's the main reason why, but I do think it really helped the defense tonight. Even though the plus minus doesn't really show that for Zubats, but for being new on the team, I just think it really shows that he's got a little more versatility in his defensive game than maybe we even expected, and maybe the Clippers are like, oh yeah, we knew he could do this. So I'm just gonna keep an eye on that. I want to like bring that to the Pacer atmosphere here and just tell you guys, and maybe you guys can watch out for that too. Let me know what you think in the comments as well on YouTube from what you've seen on that aspect as well. And then something now I want to get into the offensive side, of course. So there were several things I wrote down on the offensive side. So this was very interesting to me because Zubac was literally involved just in about every action on the offensive end. If he was out there on the court, he was either setting a screen or he was doing dribble handoffs where guys were just he was handing it off to the guy running around the screen and he would set a screen for him because we know and we're taking advantage of the fact that he is such an amazing screener. And you saw more of that ability today, guys, where Zubac, even like in the beginning of this game, this didn't come off a screen, but like Zubac, he had a nice bounce pass to Neesmith, who had just had a monster duck in the beginning of this game. And then Zubac, I wrote here during the game because I like to write a little bit of notes. His screening ability is just elite. I mean, he's just creating open lanes for guys off these screens, and just even him stealing off guys off ball is getting guys open, like shots at the rim or even mid range shots. I saw that like on one play where he screened off a couple guys that weren't even necessarily on Neesmith. It's just he prevented them from rotating over to play help defense, and Neesmith was able to just get in for a layup. So it's just some of those small aspects that you don't really see obviously in the box score, right? But it's just very interesting because it's going to really open up a lot of this offensive game for a lot of different guys. So that's something that was really impressive to me, something that you really just have to watch and see to really know what's going on, to be honest, guys, because it's not something that's just everybody's going to be screaming about, like, oh, like, I mean, all the diehard, I guess, like, what do you want to call it? Diehard basketball fans that are, like, very analytical about this stuff would. But a lot of us fans, we're not going to really, like, necessarily maybe see that sometimes. So it's just something I wanted to point out. And then TJ, he had a pass to Zubac who got the dunk inside, which I really think him and TJ could have some solid chemistry, especially in the pick and roll. So I'm excited to see more of that. And then Zubac, he has a solid screen at one point for Nimhard, which it forces like a switch. They had to switch because he just completely blocked off this guy from getting around the screen. And then Nimhard was able to hit just a nice mid-range shot off of it because of that. And then he had a huge screen for Jarace Walker, like I said earlier, who had a driving layup. And then Zubac, towards the end of this game, too, on the defensive end, I forgot to mention, but he just had an awesome clutch block on Robinson, his only block of the game. And then it just led to a corner three by Walker, and it was just a clutch sequence that kept us within this game, within striking distance, before the Knicks ultimately pulled away in the last few minutes. But all in all, I've been very impressed with Zubac. I've been very impressed with his passing even as well. I think he's able to see passing lanes. I just think that his passing's a way underrated part of his game. I'm not saying he's like Jokic out there. I'm not saying he's some other great passing big. You know what I'm saying? It's just he could be a guy that could average about 4 assists a game, 3 to 4 assists a game from the center position. And that's pretty solid against probably the most average centers in the NBA. You're not going to see that out of most guys. So I think that's just another ability they're really tapping into and unlocking. And I really like seeing that they're using him as like the screener for just about every offensive play, every action we're seeing out there. It's either he's screening for the person, they're getting a wide open shot, or he's able to just go inside, seal his man off, get some hook shots inside. And I think we saw him hit about 3 nice hook shots inside this game. So it's just very odd watching him play out there because we have never really had a player like this for as long as I can remember, at least, guys. So, I mean, I know we had Sabonis, of course, who had strength inside, some hook shots, but it's just a different look and feel with Zubac. It's pretty apparent that we just have never had this kind of ability inside. So it's just going to add a nice dynamic to this team. And the other thing I'm really curious about seeing, because we've been playing Zubac in the dunker spot still, which is obviously where he's been elite. So I'm glad to see that. But I know in his pregame, or not his pregame, but his introduction to the team, he was talking about how, they're talking about me playing in the corner or to help spread the floor. So I'm curious if they're going to try to do that when Siakam does play with Zubac for the first time. Or I'll be curious to see if Zubac will play in the dunker spot still, even with Siakam out there. And maybe we see Siakam on the perimeter more. Even though Siakam loves to play in that mid-range post area, the high post area. So it's just going to be curious to see how that shakes out. Maybe they're able to do both somehow. I'll just be curious to see how that shows or how that shakes out and how that looks, how that dynamic's going to look. That's what I need to see the next, guys. Is I want to see Zubac playing next to Siakam because I've been encouraged, even if the stats haven't been amazing so far. I don't think that's what we're really looking into. Plus, he's still playing into game shape. I still think that he doesn't look that bad moving up and down the floor. Obviously, it's going to take him some time, just like it did with J Huff, like I mentioned in the last podcast. It's going to take him some time to get used to playing our speed. But all in all, I don't think it's really held our team back to where, oh, like, you can just tell like he's super slow out there. I don't think it's been to that level at all, guys. I think it's actually been highly encouraging, and I think it's going to get even better as his conditioning continues to improve. So I just think that's something to keep an eye out to, Pacer Nation. And that's what I really wanted to cover with Zubac this game, guys. So let me know what you guys think in the YouTube comments. How do you feel about what he's produced so far in these first 2 games with us? What do you like about his offensive game, his defensive game? What has really stood out to you the most? I want to hear your guys' opinion on YouTube. And as always, if you could please leave a like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, really helps the channel grow. And I want to create just the best Pacer fan community I can as possible, because I want to make this the #1 fan podcast out there for the Pacers, guys. So that's my goal. I want to create an awesome community for where we can all talk about the Pacers. And if you could always please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just anywhere you listen to your podcast at, I would always appreciate it. It means a lot as well. So I know we play Sunday against the Bucks. I'm going to do a recap of that game, so be on the lookout for that. And I'm working on an episode too where I'm trying to dig up some more information and kind of put it all together. But I want to talk about what would happen if the Pacers don't keep our draft pick. And I want to talk about just the different avenues we could potentially explore if that happens. So hopefully just to kind of put our minds at ease, Pacer Nation. If we end up not getting this top 4 pick, obviously the dream is to get it. I know that's what we're hoping for, and that's what I'm gonna pray happens. I think that's what we're all gonna be praying that happens, Pacer Nation. But I want to dive into that aspect as well, because I want to at least expose some silver linings if it doesn't happen. So be on the lookout for that as well. I might put that out tomorrow. I'll do it on Monday. But those are gonna be the next 2 episodes, guys. But as always, Pacer Nation, I can't thank you enough for listening, and I will talk to you soon.